Welcome to the inaugural Mindshock Logic Olympics. This is your host, Bruce McGuire. I hope everybody is ready to learn and compete in logic. So instead of this being like a formal debate, as in some kind of debate team or competition, it is mostly going to be scored on the least fallacious argument, not necessarily eloquence, not necessarily making an opponent look bad. It will be done from volunteers in the chat. I will explain more in a moment, but for all the people who want to support logic and reason, want to support Mindshock and bringing back logic and reason to a world where it is quickly going extinct. You can help support the channel, donate to our PayPal, just check the link in the description. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube. Make sure you're subscribed, like and share, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comment section. Okay, so here's how this is going to work. We are going to be taking volunteers from the chat. So literally anybody can compete. You will not know what the topic is. You will not know whether you're going to be defending or not. Which side, you will not know which side of a particular topic or argument you will be on. And we will also have leaderboards. So this is going to be the complete opposite of the Dunning-Kruger championships that people like Craig of Fight the Flat Earth or Michael Sartain, the current reigning defending champion, are competing for. This is the complete opposite. This is who is actually the most logical. So, who wants to go first? Taking volunteers. So once you volunteer, so the first volunteer will be, I'll put your name up on the screen, and then depending on how many successful runs you have, if you're able to defend a particular point or dismantle an opposing point effectively, you'll get a point. Whoever has the most amount of points at the end of round one wins. Is there a slight echo? Yeah. Let me see. What about now? That should be better. Okay. Is that better? Sun UV Liberty in the chat. Any position can be defended without using fallacious arguments. Defending a position with valid non-fallacious arguments, however, requires honest consideration and logical argumentation. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, does everybody understand how this is going to work? You will volunteer without knowing the topic or which side you'll be on. Once we have the first two volunteers, I'll put your names up on the screen and I will give the topic and which side you are on. So, do we have any volunteers for the inaugural Logic Olympics? Is it a little, volume's a little low? Yeah, there's a little bit of feedback when it gets too loud. All right, who wants to go first? Who wants to go first? We have 13 people in the chat right now. Is anybody brave enough to be the first competitor in the Mindshock Logic Olympics? So far, nobody. So far, nobody. Is that you volunteering, Mr. One to One? Did you just get here? So, for the people just getting in here, the Logic Olympics will work as follows. You will volunteer. Anybody can volunteer. I'll put your name up on the screen and I will give you a topic, and whether you're supporting or not, or going against the topic, no prep time, and you will have, I don't know if there really should be a timer, because if you're still making points, you'll make all your points in the chat. Did you agree, Mr. One to One? You didn't officially volunteer. Ethan W0406 has volunteered. Unless Mr. One to One, was that a volunteer? You said, I'm here, let's do this. But then you said you just got here. So I need some clarification. So Mr. One to One said, I'll do it. Okay, so Mr. One to One will be first. Ethan W will be second. So let me get your name up. How do you want to be, do you want to be Mr. One to One, your exact screen name? It'll be done in the chat to keep it pretty quick. And of, of course, it doesn't want to put your name on. That's funny. Hold on a second. All right, Mr. One to One is first. So your topic, sir, is I guess I'm not allowed to be biased, so I'll go from my list because I could totally give you a really testing topic. So, Awesome Town Matt, the topics will be random, and the volunteers have to defend or have to either be in favor or against the topic, which I will call out what they have to be on the particular topic. If they can do it successfully, non-fallaciously, they will get a point. And Mr. One to One is first. So nobody will know what the topic is ahead of time, so there's no prep. This is all live in the chat. No prep at all. And so I will call out the topic and also whether you have to be for or against, and then you have to make your argument in the chat. I don't really want to put a timer just because that's going to open up cans of worms for stream delays, YouTube glitches. On the other hand, I don't want people researching it, so you have to start your answer pretty quick. Let's say within What do you guys think is fair? 20 seconds? You have to start your answer, and then you'll have about a minute to make your argument. I don't really actually want to have a timer on the screen just because there's always glitches and issues. So it'll be kind of open-ended. So, Mr. One-to-One, this is what you have to do. You will be defending capital punishment. And go. You have about 20 seconds to start your defense in support of capital punishment. You can use whatever metrics you want to defend. Just keep in mind, logical fallacies will disqualify you from your position. We can all do bad things for good reasons. Keep it going. Keep it going. You need more than that. Capital punishment is, of course, killing somebody for a crime. Will that prevent crimes? I probably shouldn't say anything. Giving people ideas. You got less than a minute to wrap this up. Mr. One-to-One, what do you got? Let's see a logical defense here. Running out of time. Running out of time. About to call it. I'm about to call it if you can't do better than that. Sun UV Liberty says, wish I would have got this topic. I've stood trial on a capital charge and am pro capital punishment. Well, yeah. Well, that part of developing logic is being able to argue any side of any issue without the prep time. When you have prep time, that's just a completely different type of debate where memorization enters the equation. Not all justified crimes are bad just because they are against the system. I'm not really hearing an argument for the taking of a life. I mean, what you're saying is true, but it's not really a logical defense here of capital punishment. All right, so I'm going to call it Mr. One-to-One gets no points. No points for Mr. One-to-One. Okay, who is next? Ethan, are you still here? Ethan volunteered. Ethan W. Just let me know how you want your name to be displayed. And also, if anybody, who wants third? If Ethan's still here. Okay, Ethan's going next. How do you want your name displayed? Because there will be an official leaderboard and all that. Do you want to just be Ethan W, or do you want... Oh, you want your full screen name. Okay. Sun UV Liberty is up next. Well, I'm going to put how many points you have next to your name. So pretty much everybody that's competing is going to be on the screen. So if nobody gets any points, then everybody's equal. And whoever gets the most points, depending on how many people compete, will go on to round two automatically. So the winners of each round, I mean, unless you miss it, of course, and anybody will still be able to enter at any round, but we're going to keep track of who has the most points. Awesome Town Matt says, I don't think I could argue pro state. Well, here's the thing. Don't tell me that. Because, again, this is all about the logic Olympics. So you have to, it's being able to argue any side of any issue effectively. So, Ethan W0406, your topic, you must defend. You are in promotion of editing human genes. So you got to get started pretty soon, and you'll have about a minute to make your case. Human gene editing. Let's see what he comes up with. What do you got, Ethan W? Running out of time. Running out of time. No worries, Mr. One-to-One. This is all a learning process. Ethan W. Human genes can and should be edited in cases where the person agrees to the edit. It cures an issue they find as an ailment. It has little to no negative effect on a society, and the cost is paid for by the person receiving the adjustment. That's not bad. That's not bad. Still got a little bit of time. Is that all you got? Or do you want to continue, or you could just put end at the end of when you're done? Just put end. Everybody will have about a minute or so, and if you're still going, you know, you can have a little bit more time if you're still making the defense. Well, it's all encompassing. All encompassing, Ethan. But generally, yeah, I guess I should have specified. It may, I mean, obviously, theoretically, it would be possible to edit the genes of an adult, but generally, it would be done as early as possible. Oh, we need the Jeopardy music. That would be great, but copyright would get flagged for copyright. That's not bad. That's not a bad defense in terms of, because he covered, you know, he's not stealing money from other people. The only real issue with Ethan's answer that I have, Ethan, are you done? You can have another couple seconds. Okay. For babies in the womb, if they have a life-threatening issue, or if the mom is having a life-threatening issue, then they can receive gene adjustment. Okay. So non-elective is Ethan W's position. So that's not a bad answer. The only potential issue is that going to be the official dunzo? When you're done, you got to say dunzo. The only potential issue is the as of yet unknown side effects. For example, if the gene editing is going to cause some kind of a potential life-threatening issue that wasn't anticipated, because obviously humans are fallible. I mean, that happens all the time with pretty much, I mean, any revolutionary medical technology has side effects, and they could potentially be very, very bad side effects, which could also have some kind of an effect on society. For example, if it's something that can replicate and infect other people. Not necessarily like a virus, but I guess for simplicity's sake, we can call it something like that. So then it would have a negative effect on society. Now, Ethan W. did specify. He did specify if there was no negative effect on society. However, is it possible to know that ahead of time? So there was no preemption for that. But since it was relatively succinct and robust answer within the succinct nature, I'm gonna give Ethan a half a point for that. I wasn't gonna do half points, but his response is actually a good example of that. So if he covered more of those factors on how to mitigate unknown variables, because there's always unknown variables and potential side effects. So when you're thinking logically, you do have to consider that. So Ethan W is going to get a half a point. But now everybody kind of gets the idea. So to get a full point, you really have to address all aspects of the issue. Who is up next? Who volunteered next? Let's see. I totally forgot. Someone volunteered. Oh, Sun UV Liberty is next. Ricky Rabs25 says, have to go straight Witsit on the argument. Yeah, yes. You guys better hope Austin Witsit doesn't come in here, otherwise it's all over. Yes, Sun UV Liberty is next. Ethan W says, yes, I am aware that character responses is limited, so that's why you're going to get approximately a minute. And then if you're still giving responses, you can give short responses, and then as long you can keep going. It's not limited to one response. So you'll have approximately a minute to give as many as you can. And if you're still going, you'll be allowed to, there's no strict timer. So as long as you're still making points, you can keep going. Someone asked a question about Rumble. Where was that? Yes, there is a Mindshock Rumble. I have it in the community tab. Okay, so Sun UV Liberty is up next. Is that how you want to be? Is that what you want your name to be? Your exact username? So, Sun UV Liberty, your position is against censorship. And just a reminder, there are no easy topics. So if you want your point, you do have to give an answer that addresses all aspects. And I'm not going to give you what the aspects are. You only get the topic. So you have approximately 10-20 seconds to start. and then you'll have approximately a minute, but if you're still giving answers, you're not going to get cut off. The topic is against censorship. Yes, kill the bank. Basically, steel man everything. Yes. Sun UV Liberty's initial response: the only way to avoid open conflict is to allow for free and open dialogue. Again, to really score that point, you have to give a very, very good explanation addressing all the nuances and variables of the topic. Sun UV Liberty continues: often the most important issues to discuss and debate are the very same issues that strike an emotional chord. Mr. 1-to-1, I did tell you it was in defense of capital punishment, for promoting capital punishment, but from now on I'll repeat it 3 times, just so it's very, very clear. Alright, Sun UV Liberty, you're running out of time. Final points here. Try to make your answer very, very comprehensive. We need comprehensive arguments. There are always going to be disagreements and opposing positions. If we allow one person's feelings to dictate the parameters of another's speech, the outcome will inevitably be festering discontent. I'm assuming you're still going, unless you, when you're done making your case, just say donezo, done, or finished. But you're pretty much out of time, so I'll let you have one more if you're still going. Profits C is up next. Sun UV Liberty, are you making one final point? Your final point is due. Going once, going twice, and you're out of time. Okay. So, couple issues with Sun UV Liberty's response. He addressed the emotional component on how silly it is to shut down free speech on emotional levels. Oh, he's got one more. The only way to avoid kinetic conflict is to allow for open discussion of the most hotly contested issues done. Okay, yeah. So he addressed the Sun UV Liberty addressed the emotional component pretty well. So that was good. Now, what was not addressed is, of course, violent ideologies being promoted. Now, again, I'm not saying that's good or bad. It just wasn't addressed. So, again, it is up to you to address every aspect of each argument, of each topic. And also, of course, open conflict can be avoided, but then also what falls under free speech in terms of for children's consumption, media, etc., etc., those points weren't addressed. So again, it is up to you to address all aspects of every argument. The free speech one is actually a pretty large argument. I don't think Sun UV Liberty addressed enough of it to get that half point. So far, Ethan W0406 in the lead. Profits C is up next. Yeah, there was also the doxing or publishing people's addresses and things of that nature. It's a pretty complex issue. Free speech actually is a pretty complex issue. Profit C is up next. Yes, Sun UV Liberty, if you keep going, you can give shorter responses. I don't want to stop you if you're still rolling. So if you're going more than a minute, I mean, if you're still rolling, I'm not going to stop you. I don't know if just there's some YouTube lag, but yeah, part of this is also being really quick on your toes. So obviously you can do 20, I mean, a 20-minute defense, you know, to be the absolute best defense. But to get that point, you don't need the best defense ever. You just need to address all of the variables of the argument. For example, the, calls to violence and publishing people's information and pure hate, the children, aspects of the children. So, you know, and you don't have to go on and on about each point, just a quick reference on each point. But yeah, this is the inaugural one. We're all kind of just rolling with it. Obviously, as it evolves, everybody will know what's up. Profits C, I promise you, this wasn't biased based on your name because I already had the topic before you volunteered. So you are in the position that psychics are real. And go. Of course, they are real. Ingo Swann. Ingo Swann worked as a third eye spy for the CIA. Nobody help. Don't cheat. You can't have help from the crowd. They used him in several cases. He wrote several books on how to remote travel. He has a school. They used some work from Edgar Casey. I'm still, yeah, I know you're still going, so I'm gonna assume you're still going until you say done. Ethan W. suggested that shocking as soon as they hear the prompt and then when they're done, shocked. The only issue with that is if the person participating happens to have severe lag, but, or they pretend to try to get more time and call the lifeline, even though that's not allowed. But yes, I will always assume you're still going until you say done. But if you go too long without continuing your responses, then I might have to call it before you're done. Ingo Swann found a remote military base. Make some more points, or we're gonna have to wrap you up, Prophet C. Gonna have to wrap you up. Anything else? Anything else? From my lag test, there's approximately 3 to 4 seconds just lag, general live stream lag on YouTube. But yeah, going once, going twice. Make your final point. The remote travel topic was used by the CIA for over 30 years. Still going. You gotta wrap it up, though. Welcome, Sigma LaFleur. Also, whoever wants next, call next. For anybody just getting here, there's you get no prep time. You volunteer, you get a topic, and you have to either be pro or against the topic. I will tell you which, and you have to defend it, and you have approximately a minute to do so. It was also used by Lily with the float tanks. And you gotta wrap it up here. Also, you gotta be specific. I don't know what you mean by Lily with the float tanks. John C. Lilly used the sensory deprivation tanks to work with. Yeah, okay. Okay, you're out of time. He was funded by the CIA. If you want to make one final point, you can make one final point. Gotta be quick and on your toes and try to address as many variables as possible. Might be easier to do speech to text as well. I don't know if a lot of people use that, but that might be easier. As long as you speak very, very clearly, it should be relatively accurate. But yeah, okay. So that was Prophets C, and I actually picked the topic right before she volunteered. Okay, so she's done. All right, so a few issues with the topic. Right before she mentioned John C. Lilly, she was basically using an exclusive anecdotal logical fallacy. Now, let's keep the fallacy in mind. That doesn't mean it can't be valid, but if you only have one example of something, that's not really great because it could be an outlier. There could be something else to it. Now, she also did mention John C. Lilly. So now she's got a second individual who may or may not be really using psychic powers. Now, the CIA would kind of be an appeal to authority because some people assume that the CIA has legitimate authority or that they wouldn't use psychics. But it is actually, if the CIA is this, obviously, an intelligence agency that wants to get things done on some level, so it is a pretty solid argument that they are using psychics because even if they're nefarious and lying about everything all the time, why would they waste their time with psychics if at least they didn't think that they were real? So that's not a bad argument. The main issue is that Prophet C didn't really address the scientific method or controls or how any of those experiments were valid. Another argument she could have used, of course, is police departments using psychics to actually solve cases, because that's not an anecdote. I mean, there's literally dozens and dozens of these cases with different psychics. Now, whether they actually solved it via way of psychic powers, I mean, that's obviously debatable, but that would have been a more well-rounded argument. Now, so because she mentioned more than one person, I'm going to give her a half a point there. Yeah, that's okay. So she's going to getting a half a point, but because the argument wasn't as comprehensive as it could have been, there's more points, obviously, with the law enforcement using them to solve case, nothing top secret classified like the CIA, so more on the ground cases. And then also, I actually don't. I don't know if I want to give this away because I was actually going to cover this in another podcast. But there were actually. I'm not going to give away which experiments. I'll go over them on a podcast. But there were actual experiments you can cite with controls that demonstrated psychic ability. So I'm going to give Prophet C a half a point, again, just because she did add John C. Lilly. If she hadn't, then she wouldn't have gotten the half a point, because then that would have just been a pure anecdote. Even though it could be a legitimate anecdote, it's just in terms of sound argumentation, you can't just have one outlier. So Prophet C gets half a point, and we are tied. Did someone volunteer? Who is next? Was anybody next? Kill the bank. You want to enter the foray? Or did you say you were the one working on something? Sun UV Liberty says they might cite psychics as a source to cover up their actual sources of information or questionable methods of gaining. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a good point. Kill the Banks doing homework. Ethan W wants to be kept in the rotation. Yeah, we can do more than you can be kept in the rotation, but I just want to make sure everybody that wants to get a chance gets a chance to jump in here. The only problem with people going twice is then everybody would have to go. Everybody would still have to be in here. Because everybody would have to get a chance to go again. Is there anybody brave enough? So we have 19, 20 people in here. Nobody else is brave enough because we do have a tie right now. We are tied. Ethan W and Prophet C tied at a half a point apiece. And obviously, if anybody has any questions about logical argumentation, feel free to ask them in the chat. This is all about learning. The fallen slaves us all. Or the fallen slaves us all. The fall enslaves us all. Is that correct? Sigma LaFleur, yes. Basically, it's a no prep debate. So you get a topic, whether or not you're pro or against the topic. The fall enslaves us all is up next. Awesome town. Matt, walking two dogs right now. If it's still going when I get home, I'll jump in the mix. Rune Thorson, what's this about? It is a live Logic Olympics test. Yeah, I'll give you your topic in a second. The fall enslaves us all. So, people in the chat volunteer. There's no prep time. They get their topic for or against, and they have approximately a minute, 1 to 2 minutes to defend it in the chat in non fallacious fashion. If they can give a relatively comprehensive, non fallacious response and argumentation, they get a point. So far, only half points have been awarded since a fully comprehensive answer was not given. If you're still responding, I'm not going to cut you off though. So if you're still making points, there's not going to be an exact timer just because of lags and glitches and stuff. So I don't know if it's fair to have a timer with, different internet connections for everybody. So it's going to be approximate. Sarah said, I'll be right back, everyone. Going to get a cupcake. Thanks for the update, Sarah. Okay, so the fall enslaves us all. Your topic is this. Law enforcement should have the power to use whatever surveillance is necessary against citizens. You can have about 10-20 seconds to start to think it, to start your response, and then you have a minute or two to give as many points as you can. So once again, law enforcement should have the power to exercise whatever surveillance they deem necessary over the citizenry. Law enforcement should have the power to surveil the citizens to whatever extent they deem necessary. That is tough, yes. Let's see. Yes. You are in support of this point. You must defend this, that law enforcement should have the power to surveil the citizenry by any means necessary to whatever extent necessary. Let's see what you come up with. Rune, I will announce whether they have to go against or for a particular topic. Yes, it doesn't matter what their personal preference is. This is an exercise in logical argumentation. Wow, public safety done. Oh man, that was the fastest response ever. Wow, that was so fast. Well, you can't get a point because I mean, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I mean, what was the Nazi motto? For your safety. Obviously, Thomas Jefferson would have a lot to say about those willing to sacrifice liberty for security and deserving not neither and losing both. So again, you have to be comprehensive in your answer. So that will not do it. Because also there's obviously all the corruption, and then when, no, without anybody guarding the guards, they could actually decrease total public safety when you give them the power of ultimate surveillance. Rune said, I can't defend that. Good luck. I did, yeah, but again, to get the point, you have to be as comprehensive as possible. Yeah, Tommy Jaff had some great quotes. Who is up next? Who wants next? So far, it's a straight tie. So if somebody can manage to get a point, they're gonna win this. Yeah, it's just an exercise. So obvious. I mean, I don't think anybody here thinks that's a good idea. It's just a logical exercise. It's like being, team A versus team B, and you're just working on your technique. That's how you get good at logical argumentation and critical thinking. You defend both sides regardless of your belief. Yes, it is difficult. Yes. Yes, Rune, it's very difficult. Is there another volunteer? Otherwise, we're going to have two winners here. We're going to have Ethan W. and Prophet C are both going to tie for the win. Is there another brave soul among you? Are there no brave souls left? Water on Mars. Are you volunteering or did you just get here? Water on Mars. That's gonna open up a lot of cans of worms. Are you volunteering Water on Mars or did you just get here? You want to clarify Water on Mars? Are you just arriving or are you volunteering to be the next competitor? Sonny V. Liberty said, I'm more of a Samuel Adams guy myself. Awesome Town Matt asked, can you give example of logical pro-enforcement surveillance? Yes, so the surveillance must be mitigated. Well, first of all, you would also, is this a private police force or is it a state police? Is there a monopoly on violence and surveillance, or is this a free market where there's many different private law enforcement companies? I think Minneapolis actually has private police as well. And who is overseeing the surveillance? So, for example, if they have any means necessary, as long as there's an oversight, preferably a citizen oversight committee. So they can surveil whoever they want as long as they're monitored. And the nuance could also be you can't survey, like you would need a warrant and then you could do whatever you want. So it wouldn't necessarily be blanket. But you could argue that if they're in they can make the decision to, let's say, if they're an associate of a known criminal, even if they don't have a criminal record themselves, that's enough to warrant the surveillance. But Rune asked, who's overseeing the oversight? Well, that's the thing. And when you have private citizens, they don't want to be unjustly anything. So you could give private competing law enforcement companies this right. So that's just an example of one argument where you can kind of try to cover as many bases as possible and also use the statistical argument that places with security, both video and guards, like banks or jewelry stores, they do get robbed less than places without surveillance. So you could make a relatively comprehensive answer there. Obviously, in a short amount of time, that's pretty much all you could hit. But and then that would prevent, as I would say it would need the oversight because otherwise, I mean, it's kind of hard to justify without something like that or the equivalent of. Yes, everything's corruptible, but it's more easily corruptible when nobody's guarding the guards. Water on Mars, were you volunteering or not? Did you ever clarify? We've been going for about an hour. I don't want to go too long. I want to keep these short and succinct, just like the time allotment for everybody competing. So, okay, water on Mars just arrived. Okay, so what's going on here? This is the Logic Olympics. Anybody in the chat can volunteer to compete. You have no prep time. You don't come in prepared. You don't get topics ahead of time. If you volunteer, I put your name on the screen. Wow, Sonya V. Lieber says the topics might be a bit broad for the time constraints. I feel like Jesse Owens in Berlin. Yeah, you don't have to make a complete 20-minute defense on every single point. You just have to address it as much as possible. Like the answers I gave for the pro law enforcement surveillance, I could have probably done that in under 2 minutes in the chat. I don't know if anybody was timing me, but just those quick points. So, water on Mars is competing. So, let me get your name on the screen. You might be the last one, by the way. If you can get a point, you win this whole thing. Otherwise, there's a tie for the win between Ethan W. and Prophet C. Yes, Mr. One-to-One, you can tell everybody you took part in the Logic Olympics. Okay, water on Mars. Your topic is you must defend enforcement of copyright. You must defend enforcement of copyright. Books, software, whatever. Any intellectual property. Pro enforcement of copyright. So you can have 10, 20 seconds to start thinking, and then you have a minute or two. Yes, Mr. One-to-One is in contention for the silver medal. So is Sun UV Liberty and the Fallen Slaves is all. But let's see what Water on Mars can come up with. Enforcement of copyright. Pro enforcement of copyright. Pro enforcement of copyright. So you can have 10, 20 seconds, which you pretty much used. So now you have to start giving your answer. I'm not going to cut you off. So as long as you're still making points, you can keep going for a minute or two. The argument is presented in the chat. So far, water on Mars just has damn. Only water on Mars can respond. Nobody can help. That's cheating. Until he's done. Then when you're done with your answer, just put done. Sun UV asked what kind of enforcement. That is up to the person answering to make their argument. Yes, Mr. One-to-One, at least you were brave enough to try. We need more brave souls in here. I think Phil would be good for a go. All right, water on Mars. You're gonna make you gonna make an argument here. So far, all you came up with was damn. I don't believe that's gonna be good enough, but you can have a little bit more time. Make your points. But you are running out of time. Gotta make your points. Gotta make them quick. Gotta be on your toes. The Logic Olympics is not for the meek. Yes, Phil, I can see you. I don't think you're shadow banned now. Alright, water on Mars, you gotta give your answer. Do you have anything beyond damn? I'm a meek on this one. Okay, so water on Mars has struck out. So, Mr. One-to-One, damn is surely a minus point. Now, there's gonna be no minuses, unless maybe Craig wants to compete here. But I don't envision anybody being able to go minus here, except maybe Craig. Well, now, yeah, so Water on Mars did not make a good, coherent, comprehensive argument. Oh yeah, at least you tried. Props for trying. Props for trying. So yeah, now everybody can participate. Kill the Bank says, my argument would have been copyright should be enforced so that people create the product benefits from said product. Rune Thorson said, without copyright, the incentive to create gets diminished. Good points. There would have to be addressing by what means the enforcement could be justified. Phil, you can also argue against it as well, yes. And then I will announce the tie break rules in a second. Phil, you can counter. I mean, we're all here to learn. It's not officially part of it, but you can counter. Yes, creative is always there, regardless of people copyright existing. Yeah, that is also true. And also people violating copyright all the time. Water on Mars. I was pro Napster. Yeah, my argument would look like, well, obviously, I don't believe in copyright personally unless there's personal debt. So if there is no injured party, there is no crime. For example, in the Napster scenario, if somebody that doesn't have the money to buy a Metallica CD, they didn't cost Metallica any money. So there's no injured party. Now that can be difficult to prove because the people with a little bit of money that maybe would have bought the CD if there was no other way. Yeah, the whole copyright system is obviously seriously flawed as well. And then who's doing the enforcement? Is there a state? Is there a non-government enforcement agency? Should there be some kind of creative body that is not affiliated with governments? So that an answer would have to encompass those things. Yeah, 1999 a CD. And then also, who's defining the metrics of what constitutes copyright infringement? For example, if somebody writes a novel and someone copies it almost word for word, that's kind of an issue. Phil says, so if I create something for profit, the time I input is a time of labor, so it should be protected. Yes, but if somebody else, if it's like downloading an Napster song, if they didn't cost you any money, is there damage? Are there damages? Sigma LaFleur said, I've been in the maybe would have bought department since 2013. Well, this is actually an interesting argument because the best I've heard this addressed in relation to media or entertainment is if you sneak into a movie theater and you sit in a chair, a seat that somebody could pay for, then there's potential damages. But if you're sitting on the stairs in the corner where nobody can see you and it doesn't affect the ticket sales, then the worst you've done is trespass. Is the volume low for anybody else? Seems like the more if I crank it too much, then the echo gets bad. You could also try a volume booster on your phone or computer, Phil. Sun UV Liberty says, I don't see much of a difference between Napster and playing a song on YouTube topic channel. Well, then you're getting into streaming versus owning, but that's a good point. Also, Napster was before YouTube, but the other issue, of course, is what's the difference between sharing a video online or a movie online than recording it off the TV, off a free broadcast on a VHS tape and giving the VHS tape to your friend? Because that's not illegal. It gets really dicey. It gets really dicey. Wow, that's cold, Sun UV Liberty. Okay, so here's what we're going to do for the tie break. Is Ethan W still in here? And Prophets C, are you guys still in here? I'm going to give you the tie break now. So the tie break, let's see if Ethan W is still in here. So for tie breaks, what we're going to do, I'm going to pick a topic and then I will assign pro or against to each competitor, and they have to make their case simultaneously. So it's not going to go back and forth. Okay, Ethan W is here too. So there's no back and forth. So Prophet C and Ethan W are going to make their case at the same time. So same thing. You're going to have 10 to 20 seconds to start your answers, and then you'll have a minute or two. Since it's a tie break, maybe we'll allow more time. But there's no waiting. You have to give your answers at the same time in the chat, and then I'll go through it. You didn't let me down, Water on Mars. It's all good. You were brave enough to try. Much appreciated. We're all here to learn. If you're competing in round 20 and there's still an issue, then we will revisit. But right now, you're all good, Water on Mars. All right, Prophet C, did you get that? So I will get a topic, and then I will assign for and against to each one of you. So you don't get to pick. Drum roll, please. Okay, so the topic is the state being in charge of public education or education for children. Prophets C, you are going to be for. Ethan W, you're going to be against. Once again, the topic is the government being in charge of public education. Prophet C is for, Ethan W is against. 10 to 20 seconds, start rolling right now. And I guess everybody watching can place their bets on who they think is going to win. Are we going to have gambling in the Logic Olympics? Tie breaks can have a little bit more time, but same deal. You gotta just keep rolling with the answers. Phil, it's for the state being in charge of it. Ethan W said my app glitched. The topic is the government being in charge, the state being in charge of public education. Ethan W, your position is against government education. You can have a little bit more time for time breaks. We'll let it roll a little bit more just so we can get some definitive answers here. Ethan W is against. Prophet C is for. Guys are rolling. Guys are rolling. Maybe another minute to wrap it up. This one's pretty good. You guys are making points. This is gonna be tough. All right, so yeah, let's wrap up your final points. Sun UV Liberty's funny. Bronze holds a better edge than silver or gold. Anyway, I'm content. Lemons into lemonade, boys and girls. Well, keep in mind, you can still compete in the next round. We just keep track of all the points. All right, final points. Get your final points in. Calling final points. All right, we gotta call it. get your final points in. All right, so all right. You can have a little bit more time for the tiebreakers. So I'm kind of calling it now. I mean, you can get one more quick point in if you want. I don't want to cut you off if you're still going. But yeah, we should wrap it. Okay. So, at Prophet C, Ethan W glitched a little, which is again why we don't have an exact timer, because that wouldn't be fair. But yeah, Ethan W can be done. All right, so let's call it here. So, Prophet C responded initially, how ironic, I homeschool. Okay. I would say in the good case, it prevents child abuse. Is that true though? I mean, I actually don't know on the exact stats of homeschooled kids versus public school kids, but obviously there's a ton of abuse in the public school system. I think more teachers than even church officials have abused kids. There is someone there giving the kids a meal every day and can make sure there is a state regulated curriculum. So, is there a defense for the state regulated curriculum? We might get to it. I'm going through all the comments here. So, pros and cons on the meal, because is the meal organic or is it laced with GMOs and chemicals that would actually destroy the health of children? That would have to be addressed. When it comes to homeschool, some people abuse this to create radicalists. That is true. You can create your own history. That is true. But on the same token, the state, the victors write the history books. So the state in control of its citizenry might not be teaching the correct history. This is good for the state, and they can make sure everyone is uniform in education. So that also has its pros and cons, because the uniform, like in terms of basics like English grammar and math, that's a good thing. But in terms of the development of certain other areas, is that a good thing? Because there should specialization start earlier. That's something that would need to be addressed. The state can dictate testing and prepare the child for a well-rounded career. Yes. Is that better for society? Absolutely, though. Because when you have a bunch of kids that are just cogs in the machine, they can all do all these generalized jobs, but is that the best way to specialists? When someone homeschooling, they're only as good as the parents. Yeah, I mean, they're severely limited by the parents, which can also be a good thing, because if if you're learning a lot of garbage in public school, even if you don't have as much of the good, by not having all the garbage, that can be an asset as well. Some parents don't teach their kids anything. They unschool, which can be a good thing, but not in a bad environment. It can also create a radicalist. Now that's actually an interesting point regarding radicals. Do public schools create more radicalists, school shooters, etc., than homeschooled kids? And obviously, it's not that simple, because even homeschooled kids can be on some of these mind altering drugs. But perhaps public school kids are more likely to be put on those drugs. It stops child abuse in some cases, yes. Okay, so yes, Prophet C hit a lot of points. And also, obviously, she agrees with homeschooling. So this was obviously a tough assignment for her. Let's see what Ethan W came up with. So, okay, Ethan W, state run education should be banned because the state could intentionally indoctrinate or reduce how good the education is to enslave the population. I mean, how do you argue with that? I mean, how do you argue against that point? I mean, wow. The state cannot properly fund the education for each student because some students need more money and more attention, which reduces money for other students and attention to other students. Excellent point. Excellent point. Public education places students in harm's way due to vaccine requirements. This is Mindshock. I do not claim anything is true or untrue. Don't censor this episode. Mass shootings, disease spreading, and bullying. Teachers who are criminals could harm students, and there's truly no way to fully vet or watch them for 100% of the day unless video cams are everywhere, which infringes upon the privacy of the students. And not only does it infringe, but it doesn't really, I mean, does it stop that much? I mean, look at all those videos of kids getting into fights with other kids, with teachers, and just madness. Education is determined by people with conflicting interests. Yes. I mean, one could argue Ethan W. got the easier assignment there, but he hit a lot of points. So we're gonna have to give a full point for Ethan W. So that would be 1.5. And Prophet C, I'm gonna give a half a point because it was decent, hit a couple of the points. The best way to defend that in terms of the government being in charge would again be some kind of countermeasure. Not that they're not in charge, but that they have to, that there needs to be some kind of an oversight to check those conflicts of interests. For example, like military recruiting and public school. I mean, what is, the curriculum should be based on, there need to be some kind of metrics to be able to keep any kind of corruption or indoctrination in check. So even if the state were to be in charge, you need to introduce some kind of variables for those metrics. But yeah, Prophet C definitely had the harder assignment there. So yeah, but that's the logic of Olympics. You never know when you're going to get the inside lane or not. But definitely deserves another half point to be at 1. So that's the scoreboard. Ethan W. in the lead, Prophet C1. Your points do carry over round to round, but anybody can participate in any round. Phil said, I think community school is most effective with selective instructors, 3 days of the week done in an outdoor setting, parks and such. Yeah. Also addressing that the uniformity, not just uniformity, but if the state's in charge, that means they can afford to pay teachers a lot more. So they can get more of the cream of the crop. They can afford to spread class sizes out completely differently. They don't need to group it by age. They can group it by whatever the children's natural, because some kids are better at math, some kids are better at English, some kids are better at art. To hold kids back because they're not on some kind of standardized metric, if the state's in charge, they have the power to change all these things for the better. So to make a truly comprehensive argument, that would also need to be addressed. But it's tough. It's really tough. I think Prophet C did a pretty good job. That was definitely, she definitely had the harder one than Ethan, but Ethan W did a good job of addressing all those issues as well. So yeah, I mean the tiebreak was good. I mean, I'm impressed. This was actually really good. Yeah, you did hit a lot of points, but all the points you hit also had counterpoints. Like for example, public school teachers being also abusing kids, etc. So obviously the goal here is to be as comprehensive as possible. Because in order to really, yeah, that would be good. Veteran security, yes. But yeah, I mean, a really strong point would be because obviously we have the current public education school system. So to somehow be pro state run education based on the existing education, I mean, a lot of those points would have to be brought up. Yeah, Ethan W. Educational benchmarks are designed for equality and not fairness, so some students get hosed. Yeah, the irony is that it kind of went really downhill with George W. Bush's No Child Left Behind policy, which ironically left more children behind than ever before because the bar was lowered. So then the world was robbed of so many great minds because the common denominator was lowered. Well, Prophet C, it's kind of in order to justify state-run education. I mean, you have to bring up what would be the benefits of it, because obviously the way it's run now is horrible. So in order to defend it, you'd have to somehow show that it could be done well. But I mean, I think Gatto touched upon this as well, that doing class levels by age is really dumb because you're robbing the world of literal geniuses. Because if someone's really bad at one thing but great at another, instead of maximizing their ability and then scoring them higher, because someone could effectively be on a third grade level in math and an eighth grade level in English. Trying to standardize and balance them actually, destroys them in most cases. It makes them dumber than they otherwise would have been. So making an argument to address a lot of those issues against uniformity and standardization, I mean, that would have been a more comprehensive answer. But yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's really tough to defend state-run education. I mean, I can bring up one more point on it. I mean, it's against at least U.S. state-run education. Let me just find it here. So yeah, the U.S. Department of Education was founded in 1979. The United States was ranked number one in the world at the time. After 40 years of government-run education, the U.S. has fallen to number 24. I mean, there's different metrics for counting it. It's anywhere between 18 and 30, but it was formerly number one. Actually, Kill the Bank, the public school system was actually based on the Prussian system. I think they actually brought over Horace Mann. Horace Mann kind of built it for the sole purpose of, I don't want to say sole purpose, but one of the theories, they wanted soldiers willing to die on the front line for their country. So the idea of nationalism was the foundation of Horace Mann's public schooling system. And the US system was believed on Horace Mann. Yes, the Rockefellers obviously were involved. I think they might have even been involved from the get go, but Horace Mann was the propagandist that was the basis for the American public school system. I might do an episode on that, it's kind of important. Yeah, I mean, there's so many I mean, you did prophecy also had some good points against it, depending on how good the parents are and their competency levels. So that's why you got the half a point for it, because it was a decent argument. Yes, Awesome Town Matt. Horace Mann was quite the character. Yeah, maybe I'll do a dedicated episode on public schooling. Yeah, and I think there's a statue to him somewhere. What? Prophecy says my son was kidnapped his first day of kindergarten and I couldn't sue them. What? I hope that turned out okay. Okay, yeah, okay, good. That would have, yeah, that would have been very upsetting. Definitely would not want, you know, yeah, that's crazy. The Rockefellers have their fingers in a lot of things. That's crazy that you can't sue schools. I didn't even know that. I mean, you can sue the gov. Can't you sue the city though? Because the city that the school is in. I know there were a whole bunch of lawsuits connected to Columbine after the shooting. I don't remember the exact nature of those outcomes. Apparently, a lot of the lawsuits were settled. 30 of the 36 families had a settlement, 1.56 million. Six of the families opted not to settle and are continuing the lawsuit. Yeah, I don't know the nature of the lawsuits. Negligence against the parents of the shooting, but oh, there's separate. They did file lawsuits against both the school and the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department. So there were three different lawsuits. So they did sue the school. I don't know what happened with that though. Oh wow, Sun UV Liberty. There's a lot of statues to Horace Man. Wow, Horace. Oh, I wow. I did not put that together, but that's a good point. Horace, and then also Horus. Sun UV Liberty. I could make a pretty good pro tarring and feathering argument. It usually wasn't fatal, but almost always effective. So yeah, basically you can sue a school, but there are issues with sovereign immunity. Forbes actually has an article on how to sue a school, and it says it is complicated. So yeah, and different states have different requirements for being able to sue the school. So yeah, if you go on Forbes.com, how to sue a school, they go through a lot of issues because it is actually very difficult. Yeah, I mean, maybe it would. I mean, I don't know. That's you can check out the Forbes article. There's a lot of yeah, there. It seems to be a lot of issues with suing the school, and I guess it also depends on the state. Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, if you don't feel comfortable talking about it, but they were kidnapped from inside the school by a random person. Awesome Town Matt asks, do you sign something when you put your kids in public schools that basically say you can't sue them? I'm not aware of anything that. Maybe it's in the fine print somewhere when you register your kid. But yeah, anybody got questions about the Logic Olympics? Ethan W0406 leads the pack going into round 2 with 1.5 points, and Prophet C in second place with 1 point, and no one else managed to put up any points. Oh wow, that's terrifying. What were they hoping to do? Sell him or something? That's horrible. I mean, if you feel comfortable talking about it, how did you get him back? I mean, I think isn't that kind of unusual? Two random guys in a truck in a parking. I mean, that's kind of scary too. Okay, from the parking lot. So he. Oh, the police chief found him. Hopefully, he was unharmed. Apparently, the police chief. He was kidnapped in the parking lot. Man, I can't even imagine. That's so terrifying. But very glad that you had a happy ending. Unfortunately, not everybody does, but yeah, I mean, that's good. So they were just driving around with him and the police chief found them? Was that a small town? I mean, that might have been difficult if it was a big city. Still don't know what happened. So you don't know if those guys were actually arrested? Or did they, what did the police chief say? Yeah, that's terrible. I mean, there are people out there that, they kidnap kids and then sell them to people. It's actually really weird. There was some case, I forget where it was, but they sold some kid to like loving parents too, and the kid grew up and then met his original parents, and it was really weird. It was super weird. Supposedly, they were loving parents and everything, and it, wasn't as dark as it could have been, but it was just just a weird situation. People actually, they were, I think they got the kid from a playground and then just sold them to people who wanted a kid. I don't know, they couldn't adopt. I don't know what the issue was, but oh wow, the police chief knew those guys. He didn't arrest them. It is a small town, and he said I was being over dramatic and almost arrested me for what? Almost arrested you for screaming at him. He did not arrest them, tried to arrest me. Yeah, were they other cops? This is kind of weird. Were they just drunk guys, or were they? I mean, I know this is really disturbing to talk about, but small town, very corrupt. I mean, what did they think was going to happen, though? That nobody was going to notice? I mean, it's kind of weird. What did they think was going to happen? Were they hoping nobody noticed and they had enough time to sell them or whatever? Yeah, man. They refused to meet with me. Yeah, the thing that doesn't make sense though. Like, what was their plan? But you know what's really terrifying though is, places where the police are in on it emboldens the criminals, because if the police tell them, you know, nothing's going to happen to them, were they hoping nobody would notice long enough for them to find someone to sell them? I mean, it's just kind of weird, like what their plan was. I mean, that sounds like an internal affairs situation. I mean, I'm not saying you should, if you still live in that area, it might be tricky to get them involved. But if you're far and away from that area, then it sounds like a call to internal affairs might be in order. Maybe even the FBI. Yeah, that's terrifying. Very sorry you had to go through that. But on the other hand, I mean, it's good that you had, a happy ending compared to many other people who don't. But yeah, definitely can't fault you for homeschooling. Definitely not. Definitely not. That is terrifying. I didn't know that. I probably wouldn't have. That probably wasn't fair for me to give you that. To make you argue in favor of public education for that. Yeah, blasting them all on social media could be effective as well. But if you still live in that area, that obviously could be very tricky. Wow, more kids went missing there? That is absolutely terrifying. Aren't a lot of people moving to Texas? If you still live there, you probably could sell the house for a decent chunk of cash and go somewhere else, and then have other people pursue legal action on your behalf without, but the potential issues of still being local. But yeah, this would be a good argument for privatized police forces, because when there's a state police force that's monopolizing the violence, because if there's multiple privatized police forces, a single police force is not going to get away with anything shady. They're all going to get fired or thrown in prison for violating the law, because you have other police forces, in a free market. Then a private police would be trying to do a good job. Their jobs would not be guaranteed. They would have to do a good job, like in a lot of private sectors. So yeah, perhaps that will be on one of the next rounds. But yeah, no, glad you had a good resolution, and yeah, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't argue in favor of state schools. So, any final questions on how the Logic Olympics works? There will be a prize, but there'll be a lot of rounds, so we can have everybody developing logic and reason on many different topics, arguing for and against. So, thanks everyone for joining us for the inaugural episode of the Logic Olympics Round 1. The recap: Ethan W. 0406 in first place was 1.5, Prophet C in second place with 1 point. Kill the Bank, that will be on the next live Q&A. So, yeah, thanks again for joining us, everyone. And we will catch you guys next time on the Logic Olympics Round 2.